Hello! Welcome to another edition of Devlin's Pirate Radio Show, and I am Devlin, and thank you for joining me for another one of my episodes. And unfortunately, I've got some sad stuff to talk about first. It's been a couple weeks now when you listen to this, but I decided I do want to do a segment about the death of Prince. Earlier this year, David Bowie passed away, and I didn't really get a chance to talk about him. I was surprised how affected I was at David Bowie's death. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan. I love his music. I love a lot about him, although I didn't know a lot about him. After his death, I watched a lot of documentaries and stuff, and was surprised at how much I knew. But with finding out about Prince's death, I had been a fan all my life. And it was, like for most people, a shock when he passed away. I do get affected by celebrity deaths. In some ways, I'm inspired by them. Musically, I think Michael Jackson was probably one of the big surprises before this. Whitney Houston was a shock because she was so much younger, but she had so many crises. It was like one of those moments where, oh my God, Whitney Houston's dead, and then you realize, I guess that was on the cards, just because her life had constantly been a struggle in the last years before her death. But Prince really blew me away. I was having a great, fantastic day, hanging out with a friend. Came home, turned the computer on, and like everybody else, just was flabbergasted by seeing, Prince dead at 57. I did the initial, even though it was on my Yahoo, I did the initial, check, because I always, is this a hoax? I always hope and pray it's going to be a hoax, but sadly, it wasn't. Prince, like everybody else, or anybody of my era, I knew him right from the beginning. Maybe not really the early days, when he started making music in the late 70s, with stuff like I Want to Be Your Lover and stuff. But around 82, 83, when he was starting to do like Little Red Corvette in 1999, I started really getting into his music. I just thought, he's funky. He was everything. I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan, but Prince always had this funk to him that I think Michael didn't have, because I felt that, Michael could do a lot, and I'm certainly not using this to compare the two. They're both, in my opinion, legends. But I always thought Prince kind of had a more mad genius sort of thing to him. And basically, I saw it more when I got older, because at first I was just like, a Prince casual fan, liked his music, the whole works. It wasn't until later that I realized the brilliance of some of his music. Like 1999, when I was I said, oh, this is a great song, but he's actually dated the song. As in, once we pass 1999, this song is just going to be nothing. And then I realized that there were so many huge parties at the end of the millennium, and that he actually, after 1999, when I hear the song now, it's a memory song now, and it kind of reminds us of the parties that we had at the end of the year. So he didn't actually date himself. He just turned it into a thing. So he made an anthem for the end of the millennium that works in both ways. Then, of course, came his most, critically acclaimed album, Purple Rain. I saw the movie, and always thought Prince was kind of sexy in his own way. He wasn't like drop-dead gorgeous, but I loved his sexuality. And, Purple Rain, brought us hits like Let's Go Crazy, When Doves Cry, and I Would Die For You, and, of course, the title track. And, Prince was slowly, growing into an artist, and he gave us songs like Kiss and Raspberry Beret. And he was lucky enough as a younger man to get something you could only dream of. Warner Brothers gave him creative license, as in he was allowed to basically create what he wanted, and he gave us all these marvelous singles. But what he didn't know is, at the tender age of 19, given creative control, he didn't realize that also in the contract it said that they pretty much owned him and every song he wrote. And of course that caused conflict, and that's when he started changing his name to The Artist, and that's when he started wearing things like writing slave on his face when he performed, and just got, the symbol became his thing for a while. And then he started doing more avant-garde stuff. Also, before all that happened, he did one of my favorite albums that I definitely want to talk about, the Batman soundtrack. It wasn't used a lot in the actual movie, but I think the Batman soundtrack was probably, I'd have to put in my own thing, probably as one of the most 25 most influential albums to me that had a lot of impact in me. And I will get to Prince's meaning to me. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a background on his history right now. When he was having the Warner Brothers trouble, he started releasing, since he had creative control, he started releasing a lot of avant-garde stuff that he knew only the true fans would buy. And basically what happened was, he wasn't giving Warner Brothers any more hits. And that's what they wanted. They wanted more, kisses and, You Got the Look and stuff like that. So what happened was, occasionally Prince would, give us a song like Seven, or The Most Beautiful Girl in the World, which he actually released under the symbol, to prove that he could write singles whenever he wanted to. Just sometimes he didn't want to. And this kind of infuriated Warner Brothers, which made this battle even more intense. Because Prince wanted control of his music. And when he left Warner Brothers, he finally, started releasing music he wanted. A lot of Prince's stuff is very sexual, and as a Jehovah's Witness, as he got older in concert, he'd even, miled down some of his big hits that he even commented. But he never apologized for making those sexy songs because of the fact that's who he was at the time, and I respect that. Recently, he just got his rights back from Warner Brothers. They came to an agreement. They were getting ready to release a anniversary edition of Purple Rain, which was going to have outtakes and stuff. I'm sure that's still going to come out. But I think a lot of his death has mystery around it, because a lot of people are claiming foul play because of the fact that suddenly he gets this fight that he's been fighting all his life. He finally gets his copyright. And this happened within a month or two before his death. And then he mysteriously dies, which, makes him very wealthy. There's rumors there's no will. And now there's investigations if maybe apparently Prince used Percocet, and now they're having an autopsy for an overdose. But I try not to get into that drama. I just remember that we lost an incredible man that day. For me personally, Prince, as I said, in the 80s, I was a casual listener. I loved all his stuff. My favorite song probably being, hard to say, because so many great ones. I love Let's Go Crazy. I think my personal fave is Raspberry Beret. Talk about a perfect pop song with beautiful, clever lyrics in it that don't betray the song. The song never becomes too clever, but it is clever. It's like a little wink, and there's personal experiences in there, too. When he talks about his first time with a girl, he brings that up in Purple Rain, too, and it's, makes you wonder, maybe he did lose his first time on a farm. But anyhow, there's a lot of different things that you could take from it. But as I said, I was a casual fan, loved his music, When I say casual fan, don't get me wrong, I was a rabid fan for him, but his music started playing more of an influence to me in the 90s when I was going through, I'm going to say, my ugly period. It was a very dark period where I hated how I looked, I hated who I was, I contemplated suicide almost every other day. Even went through a time when I did, but whenever I'd listen to Prince's stuff, the way I described it on my Facebook when I wanted to, let people know what he meant to me, was that he sometimes wrote lyrics that cut deep through me. And he could do in a couple words what, another songwriter, it took the whole song to do. And he could, analyze life and love and sex and lust with just some amazing poetic lines. And stuff like the Batman soundtrack, and then revisiting his stuff, through his greatest hits and stuff like that, and hearing some of the stuff. Prince released a wonderful album called Hits, and you could buy it. It actually had an extra CD in it, so it gave you two things of his hits, and then he also had rarities on the one. And even stuff like that even his rarities were, maybe not good for AM radio or stuff, but just phenomenal, the stuff he'd come up with. And even some of the songs that I really didn't like at first, stuff like Sign of the Times or Alphabet Street, I re-listened through the 90s and became like, wow, it's brilliant. I also, on days when I felt really ugly, Prince would be cooing in my ear, and I'd start getting my bounce in my step. I'd start strutting a little bit because he made me feel sexy. I don't know, for some reason what I loved about him is he just oozes sexuality. He's not the most, I'll be honest, Prince to me, he's a very good looking man, but he's small, he's shorter than me. He was, but he carried himself like I'm the biggest thing in the world, and that's where I find that his sexuality really stood out. Also, musically, he was an absolute genius. He played so many instruments, and you could tell when he produced that every little thing that he did was just, you knew that it was meticulously thought out. I'm not just putting this here, and for me, that was mind-blowing. A lot of people talk about gender fluidness, and what I loved about Prince was that he was very masculine. But he also could be very feminine, too, and sometimes his songs, basically, he plays the role of man and woman. Now, it's funny, because I know a lot of people who found his music incredibly sexist. But if you really listen to the music, it's kind of sexy because of the fact that he never takes himself too seriously. Though he does hold himself like everything I say should be gospel. And I think a little people can be turned off by that. They think, oh, he's got a big ego and stuff. And that. I'm glad there wasn't a lot of Prince bashing, though I noticed the haters were out within 24 hours saying, well, there's rumors that Prince was an asshole, just because he was a musical genius, apparently he wasn't very nice to people. You know what? Prince was also, he could be a dick, but he also did a lot of charity work that wasn't like other celebrities and had to go and spout it to the world. That was stuff he did in his personal time, and, he felt he didn't need to, like other people just wear it like, a belt or something, and, might as well put, a necklace around their thing, like, good person. But he didn't do that. Yeah, he could be a dick, but you know what? We all can be dicks. I just couldn't believe that some people were posting stuff, within 24 hours of him dying and saying, yeah, but remember, he might have been a dick, too. Yeah, you know what? He could have been having an off day, or a couple of off days, or he might have just been an asshole. But I'll tell you something, you probably have loved ones in your lives that are probably assholes or had a bad day, and I hope that when you lose somebody close to you, that you don't have to ordeal somebody and people say, oh, you know what? He was also a dick, remember? Due to the fact that I hope you never have to deal with that. But you know what? We don't do that, because we don't do that to real people. We don't do that to the average normal person. Imagine, like, your spouse dies, and then within 24 hours, people are posting on your site, yeah, but, your spouse could be a real asshole at times. Or your kid was a fucking idiot. And you know what? I hate to say it, but some of your relatives probably fit that description. But I hope you don't have to endure that. Because, some of the stories that people posted, I'm thinking, that could be anybody on a bad day. It doesn't mean that he was. I heard a lot of great stories about Prince. It was nice because the Staircase decided at the last minute to hold a Prince dance party. Now, when Michael died, I saw a lot of these, but I decided not to go, and I'd mourn on my own. But for some reason, when Prince died, his music just was so important to me. The lyrics, everything. I knew I had to go to this dance party, and I'm glad I did, because in some ways I think it changed my life. But I'll get to that in the next segment. But it was nice to see so many people of so many ages and races and sexes, and it was nice to see how many women embraced him, even though I do know there are a lot of women that always thought he was a little on the sexist side. But we all came together, and we danced, and we sang, and we just lived life to the fullest. We partied like it was 1999. And it was just so amazing to see how that happens. A lot of people talk about gender fluidity, and Prince lived the lifestyle. He'd wear, like, purple paisley. He'd wear, like, ruffled shirts, pirate outfits. He wore heels. He wore eye makeup. And he never said, hey, you gotta be like me, or thing. He didn't force people to do that. Now we try to force it on people, and it's just not working. And that's why I don't think we'll ever see it. We can talk like it's happening, but it's not. Because it's just not. But with Prince, he was doing it because he just lived his life and said, if you don't like it, there's the door. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to spend time with me, And I am going to miss him, but the good thing is as a musician as he was, apparently, he has so much music stockpiled in Paisley Park in his studio that we're probably going to see new music from Prince for a long time coming, and I embrace that because it's almost sad when you see artists and we know that this is maybe the last stuff we'll ever hear from them. So I look forward to see what Prince has tucked away. And in the meantime, I will have all his other great music to remember him by. He's had a profound effect on my life in many ways, and it looks like it's going to continue on into his death. And I'm going to talk about that in the next segment. When I came home after the dance party, I told Mike a new philosophy, and it's real because I posted a thing on Facebook. And Mike made a comment that said it sounds like Prince's spirit is kind of moving into you. And I go, well, I don't know if I'd go to that extreme, but in some cases, maybe. And I'm going to explain how that's going to affect me, and that's coming up on the next segment. But I'll end my Prince tribute with saying good night, sweet Prince. Thank you for everything. And we're back, and I just finished paying tribute to Prince, who sadly passed away a few weeks ago, and I am here breaking the final frontier. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, is I'm actually doing my nails right now, and honestly, I've never done this before. I don't know if I can actually do it, but damn it, I should be able to multitask. But when I say I'm hitting the final frontier, is I'm putting on a color that I said I probably never would wear. I am actually putting on pink nail polish. And yeah, big news. You thought Prince dying was big news, but me wearing pink nail polish, you'd think that was big. It's a metallic pink, so it's actually kind of a cool, trendy pink. And the reason I'm doing it is because of the fact that I have tried a little experiment since Prince's death. I once said that I would never wear red nail polish, and then I did. I found a red that I thought was quite nice. It wasn't too slutty. It was kind of like a brick red, and I got lots of compliments on it. And I liked that I get lots of compliments on it. And that's why I found a pink that I liked. Actually, looking at it, it's more purple, so it's a step towards that. But after I did red, I said, I think pink is the only color I probably wouldn't wear. So I found a nice pink, and yeah, it's coming out like it's purple, but I like it. And the reason I'm doing it is because since Prince's death, as I said at the last segment, the day I found out Prince died, I was out with my friend Deborah Karan, and we had a really nice time. It was a little bit of everything, because we started our thing a little bit darker because her father had just passed, and Deborah and I talked about it, and, you know, she needed a shoulder, and I was there for her. And we talked about a lot of things about life and death, about what we would do for our deaths and stuff. It wasn't morbid at all. It was just natural talking. And then we decided to go do a little shopping, and one of the things we did was I went to Urban Planet. I just wanted to see what kind of clothes, you know. I know it's a little youthful there, but I decided what the hell. And I told her I always wanted to get some sunglasses, but they were always too dark, and I didn't want to pay for prescription sunglasses because I'm a cheap bugger when it comes to stuff like that, though one day I might invest. But I decided, well, I'm going to find ones that I could probably still see through, but so I tried all these cool ones on. Like, when I say cool, it's like any hot guy or girl could put these on and pull them off. You know, the aviator glasses, the dark, you know, Blues Brothers type glasses. I tried everything, and I just don't look good in any of them. So, as we were leaving, I found these round glasses. There was actually 4 different types. There was like one with blue lenses. There was one with black lenses. There was these big over-the-top ones that looked like something Elton John might wear in the 70s. And then there were these little leopard print ones. So anyhow, I put them on one at a time, and they're just like totally round. And I realized, I like these. And Deborah was looking at them and saying, you look great in them. You look great in them. But I kept saying, I just don't think I could pull these off. You have to have an attitude to wear these. I know they were ladies' glasses, but that wasn't bothering me. That wasn't the issue. It's just, the more I looked at them, we were laughing our asses off because here I am looking at these ridiculous ones, and I think these ones actually look good on me. And then a lady walked by. She must have been maybe in her 30s, maybe late 30s, and she just saw us laughing, having a good time, and she just said, you two are absolutely adorable. And we basically put on, and she tried on the round glasses, and she says, well, they look really good on you, so I'm going to try them, because I'd always be afraid to try round glasses. And when she said that, I just decided, fuck it. I'm not only going to buy 1 pair, I'm going to buy 2 pairs, yet all 4 look good on me. I decided, I don't care. Maybe I'll never wear them. Maybe I'll just wear them around the house. Whatever. I'm going to get them because it made me feel good that a woman I didn't know complimented me. And the feeling of laughing while we were putting them on just made me feel so good. After I bought them, I went home, and that's when I turned on the computer and found out Prince died. After a couple of hours, Mike was doing the dishes, and I just played Prince songs, and I basically had the blue round glasses on, and I was crying, I was singing, I was dancing. It was just my way of letting go. This was before I even knew the Staircase was doing a dance party. So basically, I was going to just watch Purple Rain that night because Mike had never seen it, and he said, oh, I really wanted to see it. I just got it on Blu-ray like a few weeks prior, and so we were going to do that. But I noticed my brother put up that he was going to be at a place because it was his birthday when Prince died. He actually wrote something really nice on Facebook that I liked. And he wrote that he was going to be at this place, and there was going to be karaoke, and that if anybody was around, they could drop by and say hello. And about an hour later, I went to Mike and said, you know what? I'm going to do the opposite of what I was going to do, and I'm going to go hang out with my brother, even for an hour, hour and a half. And I'd like you to come with me, and Mike had no problems with that. And so we showed up and surprised him. And I said to Mike, you know what? I'm sitting here mourning someone I never knew, but inspired me, and a person who definitely lived their life to the fullest. And me going out for an hour and a half not only would be good for me to get out of the house, but it will make my brother smile on his birthday. Just to see his baby brother walk through the door. And apparently they talked about it like, do you think your brother might show up? And Paul said to his fiancée Marilyn, I'd like to think so, but I don't think it's going to happen. And about 10 minutes later we did, and we had a good time, and I got to serenade him with Copacabana. And it was a good time, and I'm glad I went instead of just staying at home. And then the next night we stayed home, watched Purple Rain, and did that. Then they announced the Prince dance party. I had some plans earlier in the day with my friend Damien, and I just told Damien, I have to be home by 8 because I need to go to this Prince dance party. And he understood, and we still gave us several hours to hang out. And, Colette was already, do you have Purple Rain? We can play on the big screen. I said, absolutely. And I decided that I was going to dress up. Not necessarily. I think people liked it because I kind of was trying to catch Prince's feel. But in some ways, this is how I always dreamed Devlin should be. When I paint my nails, I do it because this is how I want to live my life. This is what I think Devlin should be. Devlin to me is... Here I am talking like Devlin's a different person, but when I think of myself, I think of a larger-than-life person. And I always feel that I don't necessarily convey that. I slowly start. I paint my nails. I wear decorative scarves. But I want it to be more. And so I basically decided, well, I'm going to wear my sunglasses. I'm going to put on this really, frilly shirt. I'm going to wear all the bling accessories that I have that I want. And I'm just going to go out. And I think I love it because people complimented me on it. And I spiked up my hair, which I don't normally do. And I loved this new me because it was me. Everybody thought, hey, this is, Devlin dressing as Prince. And I go, no, this is Devlin how I want to be dressed. For anybody, and there's only a few, who have ever come to one of my dance parties or have come to one of my get-togethers at home, I'll wear big, dangly earrings. I'll wear whatever I want that's comfortable. And this time I took it on the road, which isn't the first time, but this is the first time I took it to the extreme. And when I came home that night, I was just so high on adrenaline. I don't know, maybe it was just my, just my energy level, but I told Mike that I may start, being more like this. I once said to him a couple of years ago, as I get older, I might be more flamboyant. And Mike just said, more flamboyant, which I always loved. But I think Mike understood it. And he knows that I get these ideas in my head and then I have to go with them. And I'm glad that he's so supportive of that. And he really is. So I do it for a couple reasons. And some of the reasons I think you'll understand. Other ones might disturb you a little bit, but I'm going to be honest and tell you. The last week or two, I've kind of been living this experiment since Prince's death, where I feel I live in a world where people are just like, this is who I am, so fuck you. I've always lived in the world where it's like, respect people, and I still do, don't get me wrong, I still will never stop being a good person. But when it comes to my own attitudes and personality, I don't have that, fuck you, I don't care what you think about me. I'm always like, if I wear nail polish and somebody laughs at me, I get a little feathers ruffled and very defensive. But I've decided, since I have to put up with so many people who live things that I don't necessarily agree with, but I respect what they do. You know, you can stretch out your earlobes, you can put a shitty tattoo on, and I have to live with it. Fine. I don't have to like it, but I respect that you're doing that. So you're going to respect everything I do. So even just a couple times I've left the house and I'll be blinged up with my cheap ass bling and put my glasses on, and I own it. I own it. And I'll tell you, in this experimental time, I think it has worked because it's amazing. I've literally started talking to people like, you know, I saw somebody, it's weird, but I saw somebody kind of cringing at me. It was like, oh my God, you're an old guy and this is how you're dressed? And normally that would have bothered me and I just get defensive and just be in a shitty mood. And now I'm just kind of like, give them a look, smile at them. Even kind of say, be an original. There's too many people that are just fitting in molds and they're just coming out like everybody else. They think they're being original, but they're not. So I'm telling people, who cares? I don't care what you think anymore. And, if I see, something I really like, I'm not going to talk myself out of it anymore. If I see a woman's shirt that I think I'd look good in, I don't give a shit. When I bought the sunglasses, I remember I was on such a high. And I remember the woman ringing it in, this young girl, was just like, okay, took the glasses and she zapped it. But when she zapped it, she just said, ladies, you want to tell me we're headed towards a gender fluid society and we have people that are still like this? Now, she never said it derogatory. She just said it loud enough, hoping that I'd say, oh, those are ladies? Oh, I don't want to buy them. Okay? So I remember Deborah Coran and I walking out of the store going, did you hear that? Did you hear that? And then literally at the same time, we just pretended like we were scanning, and I'm like, bitch, and we said it at the same time. And at that, when Prince died and the dance party came, I realized that I am tired of dealing with that kind of shit. All I hear about is people talking about gender fluidity and, I'll meet trans people that are so offended if I slip up. And, it's like there is more to being other genders than just putting on the clothes. So I've decided I'm going to have a I don't give a fuck attitude. And people are going to have to accept me because I fucking work hard to accept everybody else. And they just seem like, who cares about you? It's all about me. Well, you know what, babies? It's all about me now. And hopefully some of you get a little inspired by this too, and it becomes all about you. Now, the only thing is I'm adding a touch of class to it because I still respect people. I'm still going to have that. But there are two reasons that I'm definitely doing this new lifestyle. And so far, it's been working. People have come up to me and complimented me. And, and some people come up to me and started just talking to me. And it could be men, women, all ages, and I love it. Yeah, there's people that still sneer at me. Somebody once asked me, and I probably shared this story, why do you wear the nail polish? To me, it looks a little fake. Now, I totally respect this person, and I'm not judging this person. They were just asking for an honest opinion. They said when they see it in pictures, it looks fake. And I said, I wear it because, one, I think it makes me feel good. It makes me feel beautiful. And two, I like that when people look down on me for it, I instantly know these are people I don't want to associate with. Because if they have a problem with me just adorning color on my nails, they're going to have problems with other things, how I see life. Whether it's my sexuality or my religious beliefs or my twisted, dark sense of humor. And so it automatically puts me in a place where I can say, I don't want to be with that person. Now, I said I'm going to disturb some of you, and this I don't give a fuck, I'm going to wear what I want to wear, and as I said, it's not like I'm going to start wearing dresses, but, you never know where this is going to take me. I've got to still feel like me, and, I'm not trying to say, although sometimes I wish people would treat me more like women. I know women go on about how badly they're treated, but I see a whole side of it. I recently put a statement on my Facebook, and I think a lot of people liked it, but I noticed a lot of my feminist friends didn't. Said I would make an awesome woman, but God did not want to give me that kind of power. I think women have an incredible power, and it blows me away the things men will do for women. And I love when my straight friends actually treat me a little bit like a man and a woman. Because I can handle my masculine side, but I like when people kind of treat me in a feminine way sometimes. Because, maybe I'm going to become more gender fluid. Maybe I'm just going to start being that way. But the disturbing part, and I'm going to say it, I could just leave it out, but I'm not. I want to feel like me when I go out, and whether that's fingernails, glasses, I want to wear a fucking wig, I don't know what's going to be the future, but I like that I'm kind of becoming a target. Because I want to believe all the stuff that I'm reading. I want to believe that the world is becoming better, and in some cases I see it. But being a gay man, there are times I see that we are so far away from that world. I think some people want to believe that we're headed toward that world, but we're not there yet. And I almost want to live my life like I'm a target, as in, if people want to beat me up with a fucking baseball bat, I hope it never happens. I hope it doesn't. But you know what? If I can't be myself and let everybody else be themselves, so if I'm dressed like a target, the biggest target in the room, and somebody takes me out, then I can prove to the world that we are not anywhere near the place that you read on Facebook that everybody thinks we're at. Yeah, we've made strides. We're in a better place. But you know what? The news doesn't see all the bullying. The news doesn't see all the gay bashing. They don't put those in the feeds. Because they just want to remind us that, hey, look at all the gay marriage that's legal now. Look at some of the states that are trying to prohibit, businesses, that have the right to say that. And to be honest with you, I agree that if you open up a business and you don't want to serve gay people, I think that's your right, to be honest with you. I don't think you should be forced to do anything. But you should also be ready to deal with the backlash for it, and I won't be going to that establishment. But yeah, if one day I just happen to walk down the wrong street, and somebody's totally offended and decides I'm going to fucking show this little faggot, then I think I've done something even big too. Because I've put myself as a martyr. I've showed people, hey, we haven't really gotten this far. But who knows? Maybe if I make it to my 80th birthday like my dad did, and I'm still painting my nails, I'm still wearing flamboyant outfits and bracelets up the wazoo. And maybe I've shown the world, too, that we are finally in a better place. I'm willing to take that risk for society. All right. I'm going to take a small break, and I'm going to come back, and Mother's Day is just around the corner, and I want to talk a little bit about my mom. So that's what's coming up next. Welcome back, and I'm here with the next segment on this week's Devlin's Pirate Radio Show. I feel I have to keep saying the name in case people skip segments and they don't remember. I know a lot of people listen to a lot of podcasts, so I got to remind them which ones they're listening to. This isn't the one about gardening, or this isn't the one about, you know how to make jams. This is Devlin's Pirate Radio Show, and thank you for taking the time. Mother's Day is just around the corner, so I thought I'd do a segment talking about my mom. I love talking about my mom, but last year I didn't get a chance to. The show was still new, and I had, I was talking about other things, and then I think I accidentally forgot that it was Mother's Day. But no, that doesn't make me a bad son. My mother has been dead since 1999, and sometimes, it slips your mind, because I might go to her grave on Mother's Day, but I usually just pick a day in May, and it doesn't have to be Mother's Day, because her birthday was in May, too. But I thought this year I'm going to talk about Mom, with the day approaching, or if you're listening to this late, it's probably just past. But anyhow, my mother was a wonderful woman, very complex. She was a tough woman. She was born in East Germany, and that made her tough and a survivor, because she didn't talk a lot about her days, but she literally jumped the fence during the war when she was 14 years old. I get the feeling she was running away from a really bad past, and I get why she wouldn't talk about it. There's things in my past I won't talk about. And, but, when I look at my mom, I think of her first as a mom, first and foremost. But then sometimes I think about and think, wow, she is such a strong woman. She did have some emotions, but she didn't show them that often. But when she did, they were big. She didn't like to cry in front of people. She oddly did not like watching comedies. Yet she had a fantastic sense of humor. We spent a lot of times, where we just sit out on the porch. She loved sitting out on the porch on Cannon Street and watching the people walk by. And we had so many great talks and laughs, and the neighbors would come over. And it was just a great memory. But people just don't do it as much anymore. They still get together, which is good. I hope people still do. A little harder. I could go sit outside on my balcony, but it's harder for the neighbors to come over unless I invite them. But anyhow, my mom had a great sense of humor, but you had to really, find it. But sometimes my dad and I would watch something like On the Buses or something from Britain, and she'd just be like, I don't find this funny. I don't find this funny. My father and her had a love-hate relationship. I think they loved each other very much, but you could see time took their toll. They met over in Europe. He was a young soldier in World War II, and, she was, escaped from East Germany, and eventually they met and started a family. They always wanted a big family. She was brought over here. I'm just giving you a little insight. I'm actually going to tell you some more personalized stories. And, she always wanted a big family. Unfortunately, I think she would have had more kids if she had the chance. But a lot of roadblocks hit her way. She, got pregnant, and she was in a new country, Canada, trying to learn the language, and she learned it from, everything from, I Love Lucy, repeats to, watching Sesame Street with the kids. And luckily my dad spoke German, so, at least they had that going for them. Anyhow, my mother got pregnant, and she, again, doesn't talk about it lost, but she had a boy that didn't make it. I would have had an older brother. But the baby died, and I get the feeling, just from the way they talk, that she carried it for a good long time before it was stillborn. So she was told she couldn't have kids, which devastated her. But my dad, being in the military, put in for an adoption, and that's how my brother Ernie came along. And and right after Ernie was adopted, she miraculously got pregnant. And after my brother Paul was born, she was told that she would never have kids again. It was just never going to happen. And 7 years later, thanks to a crazy drunken bon voyage party for a friend, I came along. And I love that my parents won't talk about their past, but they always told me where I was conceived, which thank you. Thank you for that, Mom and Dad. But anyhow, my mother was not a perfect mother. And I think all mothers aren't perfect. I think a lot of them try so hard now, but I came back from the days when parenting, you didn't try as hard. In fact, you seem to teach your kids from what you did wrong. I learned a lot of stuff from my mom because of her lifestyle, as in, my parents were chain smokers, but my dad eventually quit. But my mother said, "You'll have to pull a cigarette from my mouth, from my corpse," and she did. She smoked till her end days, and emphysema eventually took her. So I smoked one cigarette in my life, and I literally took a puff, and that was it. I choked, and being the wuss I was, I did not jump back up on that horse. So my mother kind of taught me about, smoking's bad from you, because I saw how bad it made her asthma, and so I learned that way. My mother also was prone to getting in debt. She used credit cards a lot, and I learned early on, like, she gave us wonderful Christmases, but I found out later it was all on credit, and eventually my dad put her on a budget and said, "Look, I'm retiring soon. We need to get these credit cards down." And eventually she did, and that was great because of the fact that it was just, it was too much. And again, I learned that with credit cards with me, I don't max them out. They're for emergencies, if I need a expensive prescription or if I need like glasses or something. Very seldom do I use it on something personal, but I usually pay it off before I use it again. So I learned that from her. So it's interesting. My mother had some parenting tricks, but, I don't know how well she knew what she was doing. Example, I always joke that she loved thrift stores, and honestly, I may have told this story before, but she used to dumpster dive, not exactly that way. Me and my family would go out on days that the rich people would put their garbage, and my mother would be grabbing furniture and stuff from their garbage. Back in the 70s, this was a common thing. Even as a kid, I knew it was wrong, but they got me involved too, because one time I actually saw this scooter that I wanted, and it was a little rusted, but it was in still great shape. And my mother told me, "Well, if you want it, you're going to have to go get it." And I didn't want to. I was scared crapless, and she said, "No, that's the way it works." And my mother basically, she made me go get the scooter, and to show my mother's sense of humor, as soon as I touched the scooter, it was like an excitement, it was an energy. I was going to steal the scooter, and of course she's like, "Hurry up, the police are coming," and I of course ran with the scooter back to the car, knowing nothing was happening. When I got back and saw my brothers laughing at me. Other things she taught me was, she instilled fear in me. I don't know if this is a good thing, because I know now they don't teach this as much. But you know what? I turned out to be a good person, so I assume it was a good thing. But, my mother didn't want me to go out with friends too often. And it's funny, because we lived in a street where you could basically go out and you'd be out at friends' houses, and as soon as the street lights came on, that's when you went home, or you called and said, I'm at Ricky's house, or I'm at, one of my friends' houses, and, the Massalios, and, then they'd know where you are, and they know, okay, he's safe. But when I got older, when a preteen, I wanted to start going shopping with my friends and stuff, and So my mother finally said, okay, I can't stop him. He's old enough to do this, so we're going to let him go. But then my mother was a big fan of scanner radios, and she would basically listen to all the crimes. So she would be finally letting me go out with friends, and I'd be all excited because I was going to meet my friend, Norm or something for a movie. And as I was about ready to go, putting my coat on, she says, okay, have a great time, but stay away from James Street because there's some guy running around there with a knife, and the police haven't caught him yet. So now I'm going out with Norm, but I've got this fear in me. Oh my God, I better stay away from James Street. I'm going to Jackson Square Cinemas, so I better, I'll just stay on King and try to avoid going anywhere near James. And so she instilled fear on me. I'm not saying that's a good way of parenting, but that was my mother's way of parenting. And I don't know, for the most part, I don't think it was a smart thing, but it made me cautious, and knock on wood, I've never gotten in trouble. Yeah, that was me literally knocking on wood. I never got into any kind of situation because I assess every situation I get into, so maybe in some ways she knew what to do. When I was 16, I always wanted an earring. And she told me, no, you're going to look like a girl. You're going to look like a girl. So on my 16th birthday, she took me out we did some lunch, we did some shopping. And out of nowhere, my mother just goes, we should get you an earring today. And I said, but I thought you were so against it. And she said, yeah, I know, but, I think that, you're 16 now. You can make that proper decision. And, if we go, we'll make sure we go to a place that, I okay. That, I'm not going to some, underground tattoo parlor or something that she probably thought I would have gone to. So she said, look, come on, there's a cosmetics thing here. We can do it. It'll be all clean and safe, and we'll get you your earring for your 16th birthday. And as we were walking there, I don't know what it was, if she used reverse psychology on me, or it's not as rebellious when your mom does it. I just said, no, I don't want to get my earring pierced. And I started freaking out and said, no, I don't want it. I want it. And I think it was a little bit of fear as well. I was a bit of chicken to get a hole in my ear. But I always respected my mother tried using that. Now, I don't know if she would have gone through with it. I think she would have. But I didn't get my earring till, we're talking late 20s maybe. So it worked. I avoided it for the longest time. So she always taught me by example and bad examples sometimes. But sometimes it was hard lessons. She used to, I probably told this story before, but hey, it's my show. I get to tell it again. I never liked that she was, saved money at thrift shops and stuff. I hated going to the Amity because I was always afraid somebody was going to see us. And my mother always used the philosophy, well, if somebody sees you, that means they're shopping at the Amity too, so. But anyhow, we'd go to the bag days where you'd pay, a couple of dollars and then you could fill the bag with whatever you wanted. And I hated it. I hated that all my clothes were hand-me-downs. Now, luckily, my brothers were so much older than me, I didn't wear a lot of their clothes because their stuff was all out of style, They went to high school in the 70s, where I went to high school in the 80s, so, their stuff was all very 70s, so. But I still wore a lot of secondhand. My mother basically bought me a couple of new things, maybe a couple of new shirts, and then everything else was secondhand, and I hated it. Because everybody else was. I know people say it's not a fashion show, but when you go back to school in September, everybody's dressed up in their nicest things. And technically it was new clothes, so I looked good. And it was all clean stuff. My mother would never send me in anything really horrible. But when I did, I just hated it. So one day I was so excited, and I just reminded somebody of this story, and they told me I should share it again. And I was so excited because at the time one of the big brands was Adidas. They made rugby pants, sport pants, and if you had an Adidas anything, gym bag, anything, you knew you had made it. So I was so happy because at the thrift shop she found Adidas rugby pants, and I was so excited. I was going to finally have something fashion, something trendy. And so I went to school, and I wore them proudly. I just, literally was walking down like I was the prince of the school, which didn't happen too often. And I was just so excited about it. And then one of my friends said, "Oh, those are nice rugby pants." And I go, "Yeah, I can't believe it. I'm finally wearing Adidas." And he basically said, "They're not Adidas." And I said, "What?" "Yeah, they are. They're right on the label." And when I got home, I took those pants off, and I didn't even see it because I was consumed in my own vanity. They actually said "Adios" on it. And it was like some knockoff brand, but it was, I don't know. It was said "Adios" on it, and I just was flippant mad. And I remember going to my mother saying, "I am never wearing used clothes again. I am so embarrassed. Everybody probably saw my Adios jeans." And my mother just said, "You know what? We don't make a lot of money in this family, and we keep you fed, we keep you clothed, we still have money to take you to the movies and get you toys. So you're going to wear what we make you wear because we don't have a lot of money, and that's the way we can afford to do this." So I sucked up my pride and swallowed it. Now I love going to used stores and picking stuff up. One of the times that she was cheap was probably one of the heartbreaking times. Grace, I haven't even told the story and I'm already breaking up. My mother always knew that I was gay. And in no way am I trying to say that anybody who wants to play with Barbie dolls is gay. There's a lot of straight little boys that would love to play with Barbie dolls. I was brought up, when I lived in Pembroke, I believe it was, or Kingston, I had a group of friends, but a lot of them were girls. And they would like to play Barbie dolls, and I always got stuck with Ken. And they would just dump out all their clothes, and it was literally piles of Barbie clothes. Me as Ken only had about 3 pieces. I had a tuxedo, I had a tennis outfit, and then I think I had jeans and maybe a golf shirt. And so while all these girls are putting on these fantastic gowns, I'm basically switching from tuxedo to, I guess Ken's gonna wear his tennis shorts today, because I didn't have any. Every once in a while I'd grab for one of the shorts that, one of Barbie's pants that I thought, Ken would probably fit in those and they would work. And then, back then it was those are girls' pants. So I went and, I'll put the tuxedo back on. And I think my mother saw this one time and said, "He really wants to play with one of the Barbie dolls." Now, my dad was pretty open-minded, and eventually, a couple of years later, he let me have dolls. As in, I could buy the Charlie's Angels dolls, but I called them action figures. So my dad knew they were dolls, but he at least said, okay, at least they're action figures. But my mom knew earlier that I really wanted a Barbie, and when she was coming home one day, it was night, she found a Barbie in the gutter. It wasn't even a Barbie, it was a cheap knockoff. I still remember her. She was this almost a brown doll. I don't know if she was supposed to be ethnic or something, but she had a tanned body. She had black hair and these little false eyelashes on her. And my mother brought that, and when she brought it home, she said, "Oh, look what I found in the gutter." And I was excited. I'm like, what's she gonna do with it? Is she gonna throw it in the garbage? Is she gonna give it to one of the girls in the neighborhood? And I remember thinking of this and eagerly wanting to ask her if, can I have the doll? Can I have the doll? And she washed it. I remember I was watching her wash it in the sink and cleaning it all up. And the doll went missing for a week or two. And I just assumed she gave it away. And one day when I came home, there was a box on my bed, and she had made all these Barbie clothes for me, and the doll was there. And I opened it. I just couldn't believe that, when I went to bed at night, while she was watching TV, she was making Barbie clothes so I could dress this doll. Because Barbie clothes were too expensive and we couldn't afford it. But she wanted me to have some, little gowns and, some were knitted, some were just like fabric sewn together. And it just blew me away that my mother knew me so well that she knew, yeah, my boy wants a doll and he's going to get one. And, so if you ever come to my house, I don't have that doll anymore, but if you see that I have Barbie dolls around the house, that's why, because I've always kind of had a love for them. And obviously I have an immense love for my mom, and I've loved sharing some stories with you, and I'm probably going to have to go and visit her grave and say hello to my mom and dad very soon, because obviously I'm thinking about them immensely. And for all her flaws and all her amazing traits, I love everything about her, and I hope she knows I'm thinking about her right now. Anyhow, we're going to wrap up the show that way, and don't forget Mom's Day, and remember, you don't have to be just good to your mom on that one day. Because I'm telling you right now, you just never know when they're going to be gone. I lost mine in 1999. Mike lost his last year. Stay close to them because they could be taken from you at any time. Had a wonderful time today. We'll see you again next week. I look forward to chatting to you very soon.